everybody. A luxury steamship that met a tragic fate on its maiden voyage. Announced as unsinkable, she struck an iceberg off the coast of Newfoundland in the North Atlantic, taking with her more than 1,500 lives, leading to one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history. The story of Royal Mail steamer Titanic, or RMS Titanic, has fascinated the world, inspiring countless books, articles, and films, including the iconic 1997 movie starring Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Join us as we delve into this cautionary tale of human pride and helplessness, famous passengers who departed and survived, curious incidents, love, bravery, and the many told and untold stories that led to the sinking of the mighty Titanic. The birth. The Titanic was a product of the fierce competition among shipping lines in the early 20th century. To gain an edge in the competition with its arch rival Cunard Shipping Line, the White Star Line, a leading British shipping firm, introduced a new Olympic class of liners, creating the largest ships of that era. The second in those was the Titanic, a mammoth vessel hailed as the largest mobile man-made object in the world at the time. The Titanic caused quite a stir when it set out on its voyage from Southampton, England on April 10, 1912. After making stops in Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, now known as Cobh, Ireland, the ship set sail for New York with 2,240 passengers and crew. Famous passengers of the Titanic thus told stories of their survival and tragedy. Fittingly, the maiden transatlantic voyage of the world's most celebrated ship included many prominent individuals. The ship was also known as Millionaire's Special. Among the passengers were high-ranking officials, wealthy industrialists, dignitaries, and celebrities. John Jacob Astor. Undoubtedly, the wealthiest man to go down with the Titanic was John Jacob Astor, a prominent member of the Astor family, known for their significant contributions, including the construction of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. As women and children were prioritized for the lifeboats, Astor's pregnant wife got saved. It was reported that Astor was last seen on the starboard side of the ship smoking a cigarette before it sank. At the time of his death, Astor was worth approximately $87 million, equivalent to over $2 billion today. Isidore and Ida Strauss. You may not know their names, but you might have seen a glimpse of their real story, which was known as the love story of the ages. A well-known and well-regarded couple in their 60s, and their unbreakable bond, even at the face of death, was so moving that James Cameron paid tribute to them in the 1997 film Titanic. Mr. Strauss was a renowned American diplomat, politician, and businessman who owned R.H. Mackay & Co. Though Ida got a seat on a lifeboat, she refused to leave without her husband, despite his pleas for her to get in. When Isidore was offered a place on another lifeboat, he chose to stay with his wife. It is reported that Ida forcefully sent their maid, Ellen Bird, with her fur coat as a final gift in Lifeboat 8, thus saving her, saying, "We have been together for all these years, and I will go where my husband goes." The couple was last seen sitting together on a set of deck chairs, arm in arm. The body of Isidore Strauss was recovered and laid to rest at Woodlawn Cemetery in Bronx, New York. However, the mortal remains of Mrs. Strauss was never found. W.T. Stead, a highly influential editor of the Pall Mall Gazette and a prominent spiritualist, Stead is credited with helping to invent investigative journalism. His story takes an unexpected turn as he seemingly foretold his own death aboard the Titanic. He has written a fictional story in 1886, way before the Titanic shipwreck, that bore an unsettling resemblance to the real life events of the Titanic. In 1886, long before the Titanic disaster, he penned a fictional tale that mysteriously mirrored many events of the Titanic disaster. Reports suggest that Mr. Stead spent his final hours aboard the ship reading in his cabin. The unsinkable Molly Brown. Margaret Tobin Brown, popularly known as Molly Brown, was an American human rights activist, philanthropist, and actress who survived the Titanic disaster. She was the richest woman aboard the ship. Brown was returning from a trip around Europe. During the disaster, she reportedly helped row the lifeboat and insisted that the group return to the site where the ship went down to search for more survivors. This earned her the nickname the Unsinkable Molly Brown, though her friends and family called her Maggie. She was not allowed to testify in the Titanic hearings about the disaster because she was a woman. In response, she wrote her own version of the event, which was published in the newspapers in Denver, New York, and Paris. Brown's life was immortalized in the Broadway musical The Unsinkable Molly Brown, which was later adapted into a Hollywood film. Carl Howell Bear, an esteemed American tennis player and 1907 Wimbledon finalist, holds a prominent place in the International Tennis Hall of Fame. He was also a successful banker. Notably, Mr. Bear was the first passenger to board in the first class seat of the Titanic from Cherbourg and later survived the disaster. Bear's story captivates us as he becomes the hero of a real-life love story about the doomed liner, reminding us of the movie Titanic. Bear booked a first-class passage on the Titanic to pursue Helen Newsom, a friend of his sister. It was later reported by many newspapers that he proposed to Helen on the lifeboat as a disaster unfolded around them. The wreck. On that voyage to New York, she struck an iceberg in thick fog of Newfoundland on April 14, 1912. The collision compromised 5 of her watertight compartments, causing her to sink. Out of the 2,228 people on board, only 705 survived. Out of all the people of the Titanic, over 2/3 lost their lives. This included 39% of first-class passengers, 58% of second-class passengers, and a staggering 76% of third-class passengers. Significant factors in the tragedy and high loss of life were regarded as overspeed, dismissal of iceberg warning, a flaw in the building of the water compartments, as well as the insufficient number of lifeboats. The rescue heroes. During its regular voyage, the passenger ship Carpathia received a distress signal from the Titanic. Despite the presence of icebergs, its brave captain, Arthur Henry Rostron, ordered the ship to travel 17 nautical miles at top speed to reach the spot. By the time Carpathia arrived. The Titanic had sunk over an hour earlier, but it managed to rescue 705 people in lifeboats. Rostron and the Carpathia's crew were hailed as heroes for their actions, which were credited with preventing further loss of life. Rostron was later awarded a U.S. Congressional Gold Medal for his bravery. It's a historical irony that the heroic ship Carpathia belonged to the Cunard shipping line, the rival of the White Star Line, which produced the Titanic in an attempt to outdo Cunard. The disbelief, the tales of overconfidence and pride in the Titanic's strength help explain the shock and disbelief that gripped the public when the ship sank. Many could not comprehend the loss of such a grand vessel. Slow and unreliable communication methods of the time led to the uncontrolled misinformation. Initially, few newspapers reported that the Titanic had struck an iceberg, but remained afloat and was being towed to port with all passengers safe. In conclusion, the sinking of the Titanic remains a poignant reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and the fragility of human endeavors. The story of the passengers, from the famous to the lesser known, highlight the human tragedy and resilience that unfolded that fateful night. As we reflect on this historic event, may we remember not only the Titanic's tragic fate, but also the lessons it teaches us about humility, preparedness, and the enduring spirit of those who faced unimaginable challenges. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more informative content from Infonomad TV.